Welcome back, Conservancy kids. I'm here again with my friend Taylor. We're in Sierra Vista, Arizona, and we're on some of the banks of the San Pedro River. And if you look to our right, you'll see that we have a very dry bed. There's no water running through it right now because it is very hot. We're at the beginning of August, so it's pretty dry, but it still acts as a really important habitat for different animals. So Taylor, tell me what microhabitat is.
Yeah, so microhabitat, micro, the first part of that word meaning small, and habitat meaning the plants and animals and wildlife in an area. It just means a small habitat, basically. So an area where you're going to find something different from what surrounds it.
Okay, so when we think about habitats, we think of larger size. We think of something like the Sonoran Desert or the Rocky Mountains, but habitats come in all shapes and sizes. And so tell me about some of the microhabitats that people can find here in the San Pedro during different times of the year.
Yeah, so the San Pedro changes a lot throughout the year. So one of the big things, the more dramatic things that happens here at the San Pedro is you can get some really amazing downpours during monsoon, and that causes incredible flooding. And on the river, that's a great thing. So we get the river that is normally pretty small, definitely below its banks, flowing up and over that and expanding and filling up the whole space with lots of flowing water. So to our right here, you can see this dry bed, and during those incredible monsoon floods, that becomes its own flowing river. Now, a lot of that stuff is really quick and pretty temporary. You might get flow like that for a few days during a really good rain, but after that, those extra tributaries of the river start to trickle down until you get just these ponds and puddles of water. A lot of times they don't look like much, especially after a monsoon. They're really muddy, and like I said, they're not really connected to anything else at that point. Mm-hmm. But those water sources are some of the most important because we have invertebrates, we have amphibians that use that to live and to breed, and so they have all kinds of babies, and those babies metamorphose really quickly and become adults of themselves.
And I don't know if you guys can hear, but we just have some cicadas start to make noise. So if you're hearing something that's kind of a buzzing sound, those are cicadas that are coming out. So this is one of their habitats that they live in. So when you're talking about microhabitats, a lot of our viewers, we live in cities, and so we don't necessarily have this beautiful natural habitat to look for microhabitats in. So where might we find in a city different microhabitats that are important to the nature and wildlife around there?
Yeah, absolutely. So right around where we live, whether you live in a home, an apartment, anywhere in a town, you're going to find all sorts of different microhabitats. Those habitats can be, right out your front door. You go into your front yard, and you're going to start finding things there that you're not going to find in other parts of the city. So you can look for bugs, you can look for spiders. A lot of us have quail in our yards, even in the city, or other birds like that. You can also, and different parts of your yard are going to look different. So if you have a veggie garden, that's going to have different insects. Mm-hmm. And you're watering it a little bit more, so there's a little more available for different things to live, right? Mm-hmm. But then if you're thinking about other parts of your yard that are hopefully native landscapes and conserve water, even if you give those things just a little bit of water so they survive, that's going to change what's available to other living things. So you're going to get a little more of a concentration in your own yard of insects or birds, mm-hmm. As opposed to, sometimes it's so hot and dry you're not going to see a whole lot when you get out.
So yeah, there are a lot of cool places that you can look around your own home, regardless of where you live, whether you live somewhere that's very natural or somewhere that's a city. There are going to be these tiny little microhabitats where different plants and animals are making their home, and that's really awesome. So we encourage you, Conservancy kids, to get outside and start looking for those microhabitats. Taylor, thank you so much for being here. Conservancy kids, we'll see you next time.